This is a masterminding show where we're going to dig for gold in the mind of Joanna Martorana. Welcome everybody to today's episode. My name is Don Martin, your host again, and today I'm really excited because I am in the United Kingdom, down near London in Hertfordshire.
That's right, Hertfordshire.
I'm working on it. England, and I have a very, very special guest tonight, and I want to welcome you guys to the podcast and the broadcast. So today I have with me Miss Joanna
Martorana.
I keep on calling her Joanna Martorana. She is a business and leadership coach. She's been that for 5 years now. She is a well-respected professional in the community, both here but also all across the world. She has done work both in the UK and in America. Any other places?
Well, yeah, Turkey, Europe, everywhere
Awesome.
in Europe, trained coaches, yeah, and even today globally. So,
There you go. So
yeah.
she's all over the place.
Coaches,
And I'm humbled to have you as a guest. I've been kind of following your journey, and it's really exciting to have you with us on the podcast and the YouTube. This is multi-purpose, so thank you for being on.
Thank you for inviting me.
I appreciate it. So, can you tell everybody you have a international audience today? So, let them know kind of a little background of you, where you were born and raised, and kind of
Okay.
those type of things.
Yeah, cool. So I was raised here in the UK, but when people ask me where am I from, I'm kind of torn because I'm physically from the UK, so I class myself as being British, but actually my heritage is Italian. So my family, my grandparents, all of my family from Sicily originally.
So Sicilian.
Yes.
So that's
Sicilian.
where the fire comes from.
Mafia. Yeah.
That's where the fire comes from. I love it. And when you were younger, and as you grew up, did you come from an entrepreneur family? Because obviously, as a coach, you actually are a business owner. You're an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Were you grown up? Did you grow up with parents and influences that were entrepreneurial, or were they more kind of standard and kind of followed the plan of working for a living?
Yes, it's really interesting because the way we came to this country was after the Second World War. So what happened was after the Second World War, like in America as well, a lot of the Italians after the war actually left Italy, left Sicily. Sicily was a very poor country, so we were like Italy's poor cousin, poor brother, whatever you want to call them. So my grandparents were actually, my grandfather on my mother's side was captured as a prisoner of war. And during the war, he actually worked the land in the UK. So he worked for a farm in the UK. And then what happened after the war was that the only way that they could stay in the UK, and this is how immigration worked back then, was they had to get an invitation to actually come and work in the UK.
I didn't know that.
So my family actually came from very, very, very humble beginnings back in Sicily. My grandparents were like children of 10 or 12 in a family. Didn't really have the education. My granddad was very lucky because he had an uncle who was a teacher. So he actually learnt to read, which was really unknown in those times. So after the war, the farmer that he worked for, my granddad lived on a bale of hay in a horse's stable for most of the war, working the land. And the farmer said to him after the war, I'd like you to come back. So he got that invitation, went back home, said to his family, I'm going back because Sicily was very poor.
Sure.
So this is how we got the immigration of a lot of the Italians who came over after the war. And then I'm actually second generation. Okay. So my mother was born here in the UK. My grandmother followed my grandfather here and they married, just the two of them. They were on their own. And my father was born in Sicily and came over when he was about 10 years old. So bloodline, I am fully 100% Sicilian, Italian. Right. However, I'm a second generation here in the UK and I've had, the benefits of living in two cultures. So I grew up in this culture, but I also grew up with heavy Italian culture as well.
What I've found about Italian culture too is no matter whenever the Italian culture that I've noticed, not only in the UK, but also in the US, so many people, that culture follows.
Yeah, totally.
And it never really, no matter where they live, it still is there, which is pretty cool.
Going back to your point about whether I came from an entrepreneurial family, well, that was like, that was the start. Just coming over to this country, a land of opportunity. Sure. Same as in America, so people went to New York and everything else for land, it's a land of opportunity.
So when they came here, what did your parents do? Like, what did your dad end up doing, and then what did your mom end up doing for work? work?
Yeah, so for work, my father didn't speak a word of English when he came here. So he was educated here, learned English very quickly, obviously through schooling education. My mother was brought up here. My mother always wanted to become a surgeon or a doctor. That was her dream.
Sure.
But that didn't happen. She married my father, and in those days, again, it was very much a woman's role was to be the homemaker, the mother, have children, and the rest of it. So my mother had my brother, myself, and my sister, but their dream was for us as children to grow up, in this country, to really take the benefit from everything we had around us. Sure. And so my parents, especially my mum, were really big on education. So I was very fortunate. My mother really, really pushed education in our family.
Because it wasn't available.
It wasn't available to them.
Right.
And my father, in terms of work, he left school at a very young age and he became a mechanic. And from there, he was the entrepreneur. So I had my mother who went out and worked. She's always worked various jobs and worked her way up in companies doing whatever she's been doing. But my father was the entrepreneur. So he started up with a garage, a Merco garage. I don't know if you had Merco in America, but here in the UK, Merco was one of the first sort of almost franchise sort of garages.
Okay.
So he had a Merco garage, and then he branched out, got his first garage at Great Offaly Garages. And he's been an entrepreneur all his life.
So he started the business. He came here.
Yeah.
It was opportunity he saw.
Exactly.
And he decided to start a business.
Yeah.
What were some of the key values or principles that you, like, as a young child growing up with that you kind of gained from him? Because obviously you're successful in your career now. You're coaching other people to do that. What were some of those values that you learned from him that helped you later in life that you can kind of recall or reflect when you were a kid?
Well, it's really interesting because my father was the entrepreneur, and yet my parents pushed me into the philosophy of schooling, education, and the dream was that I was going to become a barrister. I was going to be the lawyer. Okay. So again, it's quite stereotypical when you look at all the Italian films and series and everything. Yeah. That I was the one that was going to be this, this hotshot lawyer and all the rest of it. So I went on to university, did all those things. So I was raised actually not to be an entrepreneur, which is the irony, because I think being an entrepreneur is a hard thing to do. Sure. And so my parents didn't want us to go through those challenges and the struggles of being an entrepreneur. And it's funny how I've come full circle, and I did those things, the kind of, we are educated to leave school, university or whatever, and go and get ourselves a job. And we say in coaching terms, what does job stand for? Right. Just over broke, right? So, but we all go get a job, and then we have what's called that entrepreneurial seizure. So, you read the E-Myth?
No, I haven't.
Read the E-Myth. So he talks in the E-Myth about the entrepreneurial seizure. And some of us actually wake up one day and decide, hang on a minute, I want to do this for myself. Right. So that happened to me. But the interesting thing was that I was kind of kept away from that growing up. That was almost like the man's role, my father being the entrepreneur. Sure. And my brother growing up sort of seeing what my dad was doing. Exactly. Right.
But you can't help kind of picking up the things. It's funny, I always tell people when I'm coaching and mentoring, I would tell people do what you do, not what you say. Yes. So they wanted you to do stuff, but you watched.
I watched my father.
Right.
Yeah, and I watched what he did. I saw the struggles that my dad went through, but I also saw the good times that we had. Sure. And for me, I think actually probably what really inspired me was the childhood that we had. We had everything. We had great holidays. One of our most favourite holidays.
That's vacations for you Americans.
Sorry, vacations.
That's fine. That's good.
Yeah, vacations.
I'll translate for the Americans.
That's cool. You can do the translation. So vacations for us was a huge thing growing up as children, because we used to go back to Sicily most years, every summer. Those memories are fantastic. But actually, our most favourite holiday vacation of all time was when my father, my uncle, who's also an entrepreneur, we all went to Florida and we all went to Disney World. And we did Tampa, we did Miami. Absolutely. We were there for 3-4 weeks, and I was 11 years old. And when you look at our community, it was unheard of, but I'm very, very lucky and fortunate. My parents were ahead of their own generation at that time in many ways.
And he was a hustler.
Yeah. He still is.
Yeah.
You can ask Christian.
Still is. Christian's here.
Christian's here. Yeah. But so my dad is just a natural. I hate to say the word salesman, because to me he's not a salesman. He's just a natural influencer. And I think that's what I took more than anything from my father, was I became a natural influencer. And that was through watching my father.
One of the most powerful things I think to realize is so many people have a stigma to talk about when they talk about entrepreneurism, and then they think about sales. You have to be a salesperson to be an entrepreneur, because you're selling an idea, concept, whether it's you're selling your product or you're selling the vision of the company to the employees, you're selling, I
mean, I'd go one step further than that and say, actually, whether people like it or not, we are all selling every single day. We're selling. I'm selling myself right now to you, and you're selling yourself to me.
Selling your kids on values.
We're selling all the time. Every
doubt.
time we open our mouths, we are selling something, because we're selling people into believing in us, believing in what we do, an image we might have, whatever it might be. So, and also the other thing is, I think the reason why, especially in terms of what I do for a living now, leadership to me, I always say, if you look at the world today and you look at, who inspires you as a leader? Well, the top leaders in the world are the best salespeople in the world.
Without a question.
However, you look at it the other way around, the best salesperson may not necessarily be the best leader. Does that make sense? That's
exactly right. Because sometimes, 1,000%. I'll let people think about that, because that was a great point. So for you, when you, where did you start your career? So, you're now an entrepreneur, you own a coaching business, you have a ton of influence, and you help a lot of people with improvements in their life, both life, business, finance. But what did you do from a career standpoint? Like, how did you start your career? Was it as a business owner, or did you have a job prior to that?
No, so I had a job prior to that. So I left university. I did study law. I was supposed to become a barrister, lawyer. I thought, actually, this isn't really what I want, and this isn't where I see myself going. And I think that at the age of 20, we don't know who we are yet. So it's very hard, I think, for 20-year-olds to decide at that time in their lives, what do I want to be? Who do I want to be? So, but anyway, so I didn't go into law. I ended up in banking instead. I mean, which is worse, I'm not sure. But anyway, that's where I ended up. So I ended up in wholesale banking, working in the city. I worked my way up from the bottom, and by the end of my career...
Was that in London?
Yeah, in London, okay. In the city, in London. Sorry, in the city.
It's all good.
Yeah, when we say city...
You say city, people think New York City, back in London, of course.
So London City, in the financial, city. And basically, I worked my way up in a male-dominated industry, obviously being a woman, male-dominated, worked my way up, and just literally... just worked hard. I was determined, I was ambitious, I was driven. I had to fight hard to get to where I got to. And I was in the city for about 12 years. And by the end of my career, when I was at my peak, I was earning really good money. But I was absolutely miserable. Totally, I was just miserable. Money's not everything.
So the financial windfall wasn't fulfilling for you?
No, because I started a young family as well. I had a 5-year-old, 3-year-old in tow when I left the city. But the challenge was always, how do you juggle having a career, starting a family? You have the money, but you don't have the time. And so all you're doing is trading your time for money, right? And this is what most people are doing today. So sadly, my marriage came to an end as well. And part of that was to do with my career.
No time.
But also, I think I was just burnt out, and I was burnt out.
So it affected your personality, your influence at home.
Affected lots of things.
Sure.
And I can honestly say that when I worked in that industry, I wasn't authentic because I was having to be someone else to get ahead. So I wasn't really being me. I wasn't really living my own purpose. It was more about, you're supposed to go to school, go to university.
You were living your parents' dream.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah, I suppose in a way.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Or society's expectations.
Society's expectations, everything else.
But it wasn't fulfilling. It wasn't satisfying.
And there was never ever that time or that moment that anybody ever said to me, hang on, why don't you start your own business? That didn't happen. Never.
So when was that moment? What was the moment that actually that happened for you where you decided, hey, I want to do something for myself? Like you had this revelation. When was that?
That was actually in January 2014.
Okay.
So
where were you? Do you remember the
I do remember, because this was the catalyst. So I got on the train, my regular commute every day, got on the train, came into Liverpool Street, and I had a friend at work, and he was having challenges, personal challenges and whatever, and I walked into a card shop, and I was just reading through all these cards, and I found this card, and it said on the front of it, Go confidently in the direction of your dreams. Live the life you've imagined.
Yep.
Henry Ford Thoreau.
One of my favorite quotes ever.
Yeah, that was my catalyst. And I picked up this card. And in this card, I wrote this message for my friend. And it was a deep, meaningful message about how my friend should believe in themselves more, should take a leap of faith, change their life and do something for them. So I got this card, I wrote this card out and said, come on, let's meet up for lunch. Went for lunch and I gave them the card and I said, this is for you. Anyway, they read the card and said, hang on, no, this is for you.
You wrote it to yourself.
That's what he said to me.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was angry at the time, right? I didn't get it at the time. I was like, no, this is for you. This is my message to you. Receive it.
Right.
No, this is for you. You wrote this for you.
Yeah.
You need to listen to yourself. And that was the catalyst.
That's awesome.
And that catalyst changed my whole life. That's when I made the decision to change my life entirely.
Beautiful.
It meant actually...
It's amazing how some people kind of pop up in life and like no matter what, they might not even be the type of influencer or that came through.
Yeah.
But that instant, they were a life changer.
Yeah. I reached a point in my life where something had to change.
Yeah.
Or I was at a stage in my life where I was in the matrix, right? We're all in the matrix.
Sure.
I'm not in the matrix anymore because that's when I took the toughest decisions in my life. And that's when I took the red pill. And I said, you know what? And I thought really hard. And
What's the red pill?
The red pill in the matrix. The red pill.
Got it. Right.
The red pill that you take, you can never turn back.
Right.
That's the pill I took. And when I took that pill, I looked really closely at my life and I said, who have I been living for? Well, I was like, what have I been doing these last... I was 34 at the time. I said, what have I been doing these last 34 years? When I look back on my life, all I realised or saw was that everything I was doing was because maybe it's what others wanted me to do or others expected of me. And although I had dreams along the way, I let those dreams go. For example, I was a musician. I played piano from the age of 7. I played clarinet. I wrote music. I loved to sing. But I gave all those things up because, well, those things don't make you money, right? And this is what happens to us in life. We give up our dreams for this rat race and what society says we should be doing.
What you're expected to do, what your parents want you to do, whatever. Exactly. Did you have any other, so at this moment is when you decided to, start searching for something.
And I had no idea at that time. I was like, what am I going to do? Because bearing in mind, I was leaving my husband. I left my husband. And by the way, he's a good man.
Right.
Things just happen, right? We just grew apart and I had 2 children in tow. So I thought, what am I going to do? I need to get out of this toxic environment that I'm working in as well.
Right.
And I'd had enough in the sense that it wasn't even worth the money anymore. And everyone said, you're crazy, you're mad, you're on your own.
How could you leave a great paying job?
You're going to leave 6-figure salary, all of that.
It's the whole situation in almost every successful entrepreneur. You have to give something up. I always call it the vacuum principle. You have to give something up to make room in your life so something else greater can come in. Yeah.
And the thing is, at the time, my vacuum was full of stuff that I didn't want.
So you didn't have a vacuum.
It wasn't the stuff that I wanted.
Right.
So I had to, like you say, get rid of what was in that vacuum, free up the space, so I could now think
attract something else in.
Exactly.
Yeah. When you were a kid, just because I think this is an important question that a lot of people, did you do anything when you were a child that was entrepreneurial?
Yes.
So what did you do? Anything?
One thing I did was entrepreneurial. So my brother, he used to blackmail me to make his bed.
Okay. Yeah. And sounds familiar. To me.
And being Italian, so I grew up it's strange. I grew up in a paradox of cultures because whilst I was being raised in an Italian culture, I was living in England and I was going to school with English people and the rest of it. My grandma, typical, female Italian, oh, you must make your brother's bed, you must do this, you must do that, that's what you do as a sister, that's what you do as a girl. And I said to my grandma, I said, I will never, I won't make my brother's bed. But the entrepreneurialism came into this way. He was blackmailing me and said, if you don't make my bed, I'm going to tell mum this or do that. And I said, okay, I tell you what, I'll do your deal. I said, I'll make your bed if you give me your pocket money. And this was the first time I did any business. And my brother would rather
fee for service.
Yeah, and he would rather give me his pocket money than his own pride to make his own bed. So I used to collect his pocket money, and there I had my little piggy banks on my windowsill. I don't in America you wouldn't, but in the UK we have Lloyd's Bank, and these have the little piggies.
We know Lloyd's.
Oh, you know,
Lloyd's.
So you have these little piggies, like you have the baby pig, the sister pig, the brother pig, the mummy pig. And basically my whole ambition and my whole drive was to get enough pocket money to get the daddy pick.
Right.
And I got it. And I got the daddy pick. And I filled up all my brother's pocket money for making his bed.
Brother's pocket money because he didn't want to make his bed.
That's
so
right.
what's your brother do now, by the way? What's your brother do now?
He's actually a college teacher.
Okay.
Yeah, he teaches mechanics.
Got it. Not an entrepreneur.
No.
There you go. I mean, that would have been my guess anyway. Of course, great. It's okay.
Yeah.
That's right. But that's the thing. That value for him was worth it to pay you, and that's where entrepreneurs. It's solving an issue.
It was finding a way. I found a way to make it. Do you know what it is?
It's solving someone else's issue.
Heard of Stephen Covey?
Right, of course.
7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Mm-hmm.
Win-win or no deal.
Right.
I had that in me instinctively as a child. No one taught me that.
Mm-hmm.
I just knew. Well, look, if I let him think he's winning, but I'm winning too.
Right.
That's great.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And what's really powerful about being an entrepreneur in this world, for something to be long range, long term, you have to solve a true entrepreneurs find a problem and then solve it, and that's and monetize that. So that's what you did. That's what everything is about. If you are,
were you expecting the whole newspaper round thing? Because I was too lazy for that.
See, I did that. so I did the newspaper. I sold I used to fix bicycles for kids. You know, because I learned and I fixed the bicycles and oh man, I don't remember all the things, but so many different things that I did. You know, I sold the lemonade stands and things like that, which we call lemonade stands in the U.S. So there was always a way that if there was a way, I figured it out. So anyway, all right. So then you started your company, which is what?
So this is the People's Coach Limited.
The People's Coach Limited. So that's
Limited.
your business name.
But I'll give you a little history about how we've got there, because
give us a background of how. So you decided you want to do something.
Yeah.
But you had a calling to help people.
I had a calling. I had a calling to do something, and at that stage, when I made the decision I was going to leave banking, I had to think very quickly. Well, what am I going to do instead?
Right.
So I thought about, okay, what?
So you'd actually left banking before you had.
No, I didn't do that. So I'll explain to you how that came about.
Strategy.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I am a strategist, so I always say to people who go into business, have a strategy where you can transition, because you want to, especially if you've got children, you've got a family to support. I think had I not had a family, I could have been quite, what's the word? Not reckless, but, I would have been an even bigger risk taker.
Yeah, because you had 2 children.
Yeah, I had 2 children.
So you had
at the time.
to make sure that you
So what happened was I thought about, okay, where am I today? How could I make the same level of income, sustain the lifestyle I have, and what talent do I have that I could do for myself?
Sure.
And so what happened was I actually came across a conference in London, and it was Brad Sugars, who is the CEO and founder of Action Coach.
Okay.
And I'd never been to anything like that before. And Brad Sugars was the one who actually inspired me to become a coach. I mean,
and Action Coaching, is that an American company?
It's a global franchise.
Right.
Yeah.
It started in the US, I believe, right? Or no?
So Brad Sugar's actually Australian, but headquarters is in LA.
Oh, correct. That's what I thought.
in Vegas, yeah?
Right.
In Vegas. So
Action Coaching, yeah.
Action Coach, yeah. And there are about 1,000 coaches globally, but we're all franchise partners.
Sure.
Now, he's a very clever guy, because what he made us all do, or not made us, but his model was that for any coach to become a true, authentic coach, you have to have your own business. You have to go through the pains of any entrepreneur who run a business.
Good.
And therefore, everyone who goes into Action Coach buys a franchise, and therefore you're buying a startup business.
Right.
But your startup, you learn, you're in essence, you're buying into the IP. We have intensive coach training, and we went through all that. But what happened was I went to this event, I saw him on the stage. He's a master on the stage. But what he told me from the stage was, hang on a minute, this is what I've always been doing. I've been doing this in banking, because one of the things I loved doing more than anything else was mentoring, coaching, developing people. And actually there are quite a few people in the industry and teams that I grew where they went on to become heads of departments and directors in banks globally.
And that fulfilled you.
Yeah, more so.
Yeah.
It's bizarre. It's like I'm just the kind of person, I am more fulfilled by helping others develop and grow than myself. I really am. It's like, I don't know, that's just my passion.
Sure.
If I can help one other person actually get better and become more successful, that is my win. That's where I get the satisfaction.
So that's how you got involved in what you're doing now.
So I became a franchise partner of Action Coach, and that's where you got started. That's where I started.
That's really, really cool. For you, as you know, like we talked about earlier, our slogan for this broadcast is when your why in life. It's grind life, but we spell it with Y's, because when your why in life fuels your grind, your hustle, your why, your purpose in life fuels your hustle. What do you think is your purpose today? What's your why that fuels your hustle, your grind?
Yeah, I do think about this one a lot, and it's interesting because it's not something actually that rolls easily off the tongue, because I think I have a lot of whys, and I don't think I ever have any one why at any one time. Sure. Because, when you look at your life, what's my why? My why is to help develop my children into becoming, great human beings.
1,000%.
And I work very hard at teaching them as much as I can now, in terms of their mindset and helping them grow more mentally than anything else. See, the thing is, education teaches us knowledge, but it doesn't teach us social skills. It doesn't prepare us for the world that we're in today and what's happening in the world today. So for me, number one is that. I think one of my biggest whys is, how do we help our children in the future of our future? How do we help these children grow in this world that we live in today? So that's number one. Yeah. Another why that I have, it's so easy, I think, and perhaps a bit, I don't know, cliche to say, my why is to help other women, because ironically I help more men than women at the moment. So it's bizarre, because I work in business. Most entrepreneurs and business owners are men typically. So I think there's twofold. My why is to help men in business, but bring a feminine energy to the environment. Sure. And actually a lot of business owners who I work with, I help them on a personal level. I help them with their marriages. I help them with, that work-life balance, and helping them in their own leadership to support the families that they support. So it's not just about them; it's the people they employ.
It's full spectrum for sure.
Yeah, full spectrum. And then in terms of women, what's really interesting is that when I took made the biggest changes in my life, I got divorced. I was a single working mother. Started my business after I got divorced with 2 children, 5, 3 years old. I was skint at that point. I'd gone from having everything to nothing. And actually so many women used to approach me and say, how did you do it? How do you do this? How did you start a business on your own, and you've got 2 kids and you're doing it? And I never really looked at it that way, because I just do what I do. Right. And I don't look at myself and think, oh wow, I've achieved this or that or everything. I'm just living. I'm just getting on with life.
There was no other choice.
No, it was survival. It was survival.
And sometimes when people get it, when it becomes survival, sometimes people have to reflect that it is survival too. Sometimes people hide and don't realize it. But for you identified it. It was survival. You embraced it, and you didn't do anything spectacular in your eyes. In my eyes, although I think you really, really did. But in your eyes, you didn't, because all you did was do what you had to do to provide that
security
for your kids.
And all of those things. Yeah.
But you've been through that, and I think that's so powerful, and why you're such a great coach is because you've been through so much. You had it, and then you didn't. And I always tell people, it's easy to just never have it. But once you have it and then you lose it, it's like nothing can stop you from getting it back, or you'll never come back. Well, it can be, or you just never come back. It's how you respond, and obviously you responded incredibly well. And I'm proud of you. It's good.
And it's a drive and a motivation, because it's not about me. It's about everybody else that I support and look after.
People are watching.
Yeah.
People are watching.
They are, but
especially your kids.
My kids. When you say my kids are watching, that matters to me more than anything else. Anyone else, honestly, I couldn't care less. I don't. What we say is, what people say about me is none of my business. I'm not interested in what other people think of me. I do what I do. You like me, you like me. You don't, you don't. It's no skin off my nose. Right. If I spent my life worrying about what everyone else thought of me, I wouldn't be where I am today. Sure.
But when you have a client and they see that you did it, then that inspires them to maybe do it too.
Yeah, totally.
It's more of a servanthood response versus a I'm worried about what people think response.
Yeah, I think what it is that I believe I carry that credibility because I've been there. I'm not textbook. That's the point.
You went through this. We call it, in America we say, I went through the school of hard knocks. Yes. I got my PhD in the school of hard knocks. Yeah.
Totally. And that was draining my energy. It was killing me. And I wasn't enjoying what I'd set out to do. So I was like, this can't be right. You know, I've left this career in the city, this toxic environment I don't want to be working in, and now all I've done is gone and attracted the same type of people and created and manifested this environment in my business. And I had to accept that that was my fault. That was about me. And this is the thing. This is the toughest thing for any entrepreneur, is to accept your business is a reflection of you.
Without a doubt.
And this was, my clients were a reflection of me. And as soon as I accepted that, I made, again, another tough decision. And I said, right, I'm getting rid of all these clients and I'm starting again. Wow. So I scrapped my business. Tough. Right? That's
incredible. I didn't know that. That's
oh no,
I
scrapped my business. And do you know what? I didn't even have to get rid of them. As soon as I said in my head, all I had to do in my mind, I said, I don't want these clients anymore. Do you know what? They all just started dropping off. They all started leaving. I didn't need to tell them. They knew it, because once I put it in my head, I projected it. And therefore they left me. And as soon as that happened, I created the vacuum again. I said, right, now this time, I sat down and said, right, what are my values?
Right.
What am I doing this for? Why am I doing this?
So powerful, yeah.
And I said, and who are the clients I want to
What are your core values? What are my core values? I just did that for my business last week. I went through the list of my core values because, you know, as you know, like I work with thousands of people, and I'm going through, all right, what are the core values that I'm going to spend my time with, whether it be clients or partners, whatever that might be. And I went through that and I really evaluated that, and that's what you did.
And that's what I did. And you know what? It took longer to find them, but the value was so much bigger, because the bad clients I was attracting, these were easy wins. This was easy wins, right? Easy pickings. But they weren't the right pickings. And you weren't
going to be able to help them as much.
I couldn't help them because they couldn't help themselves. And that's the thing with coaching as well. You've got to be coaching people who are open to coaching.
Who want to take
action. Ever get a client in coaching who thinks you're going to turn up with a magic wand and change their lives? Forget it. Do not go there. It doesn't matter what money they pay you. It's not going to work. They have to want it.
So if people want it, obviously you can help them.
Totally. I mean,
how can people get in touch with you, by the way? What's the easiest way for people to get in touch with you? So you know, if there's people in the UK or the US, because you're everywhere.
I do coaching globally.
So what's the best way to get in touch with Joanna Martorana? Joanna Martorana.
Yeah, no, it's cool. So there are two ways you can do that. My own personal site, joannamartorana.com, JoannaMartorana.com, or thepeoplescoach.global.
Love it.
So you can contact us through there and get in touch if you're interested in learning more about what we do and how we help our clients grow. And
we're going to be doing stuff.
Yeah, we are.
So keep an eye out and keep a listen. You're going to hear some stuff through the podcast and the broadcast, but we'll do some tours and do some things we can all. Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun.
Totally.
Thank you for being on. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to spending more time with you, and I appreciate you guys welcoming me here. We did have a few drinks before, and it was a good time. Yes. And I hope you guys are enjoying your life too, and thank you for being with us.
Brilliant.
Appreciate you. Great job.
Thank you, Don.
Awesome.
Bye.
Cheers, guys.